I wrote the first line of code on a broken laptop. I slept on the floor next to servers that overheated every night. I believed in slow growth. I believed in building something real. Emily used to sit beside me and smile. One day this will all be worth it. She would say, but over time her tone changed. How long are we going to live like this? We're building. She crossed her arms. Or maybe you're just afraid to cash out. I laughed it off. I should not have thought the payout offer came 3 months ago. A large competitor wanted controlling shares. The number was big, bigger than anything I had ever seen. Emily stared at it like it was freedom. She sighed loudly. You're being emotional. I remember looking at her and saying, this isn't about money. It's about what I built. She shook her head. Dreams don't pay forever. I refused the offer. I thought that was the end of it. Yesterday I flew out to meet new investors, real partners. People who believed in long-term growth. I felt proud walking into that meeting. When I came home tonight, the house was too quiet. Emily sat at the dining table. We don't need them anymore. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? She pushed the folder toward me. I handled it. I opened it. My hand started shaking before my mind understood why. My signature wasn't there, but hers was. I stared at the date, yesterday. I accepted the offer, she said. They wired the money this morning. I felt the room tilt. You had no right. She stood up quickly. I'm your wife. I own half. Not control, I snapped. You needed my approval. She looked at me, almost annoyed. You would have said no. Yes, I whispered. I would have. She ran a hand through her hair. I was tired of waiting. The words hit harder than any slap. Waiting for what? I asked. For you to choose us over your obsession. I felt my chest tighten. That company is us. No, she shot back. It's your ego. I stepped back like she had pushed me. They're going to dismantle it, she shrugged slightly. That's not our problem anymore. I couldn't breathe. 7 years. Every sacrifice. Every risk. Sold in a quiet afternoon. I asked. She softened her voice. I secured our future. I shook my head slowly. I lowered myself into a chair because my legs would not hold me. The contract lay open in front of me. And the woman I trusted most had handed it away. I did not sleep that night. Say something, she demanded. I let out a slow breath. What do you want me to say? She turned toward me. That you understand why I did it. You signed away control of my company without telling me. She rolled her eyes. Our company. I stood up. You never wrote a single line of code. I supported you, she shot back. I believed in you when no one else did. Believing in me doesn't mean you get to destroy what I built. She walked closer, lowering her voice. I didn't destroy it. I secured millions for us. I shook my head. You secured comfort, not legacy. Her jaw tightened. Legacy doesn't matter if we're miserable. I felt something crack inside me. Were you miserable? She hesitated for half a second. I was tired. Of me? I asked. Of waiting, she replied. I stared at her, realizing she had already justified everything in her mind. I had trusted her with access, with shares, with decisions. I thought marriage meant partnership. Now I saw how careless I had been. My phone buzzed. Marcus. I stepped into the hallway and answered. Tell me it's not true, he said immediately. I swallowed. She signed. Silence filled the line. He asked. Because I let her, I replied. He exhaled sharply. What's your move? I looked back at the bedroom door. I don't know yet. Marcus's voice softened. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. After I hung up, his words echoed in my head. Don't let this break you. I walked back into the bedroom. Emily was sitting on the bed now. Was that Marcus? She asked. Yes. She nodded. He'll calm down once he sees the money. I stared at her. You think this is about money? She frowned. It always is. No, I said firmly. It's about trust. She threw her hands up. I did what you couldn't. You mean what I wouldn't, I corrected. Because I had principles. She looked at me like I was foolish. Principles don't build security. I felt my anger fade into something colder. Clarity. The next morning, I called a lawyer. My voice did not shake this time. By afternoon, the papers were ready. I placed them in a folder and drove home slowly. Emily was in the kitchen when I walked in. You're quiet today, she said carefully. I placed the folder on the table between us. She glanced down. What's this? It's simple, I replied. She opened it, and her face changed. You're not serious. The walls were thin. The kitchen was barely functional, and the silence felt heavier than the boxes stacked around me. Marcus dropped a bag of groceries on the counter and looked around. "It's not glamorous," he said, "but it's a start." I forced a small smile. "Feels like I went from founder to failure in 1 week." He leaned against the wall. "You're not a failure. You got betrayed." I shook my head. Marcus crossed his arms. "Stop blaming yourself. What's done is done. The question is what now?" "What now?" I repeated. I sat on the couch that still smelled like plastic wrap. "Now I rebuild my pride." He gave me a sharp look. "No, now we rebuild the product." I laughed bitterly. "With what money?" He stepped closer. All. They felt empty without the company. "I don't know if I can go through that again," I admitted. 7 years, Marcus. 7 years gone in one signature. He crouched in front of me. "They took the company." I had pitched to her once before, years ago. She studied me carefully as I explained what happened. "So your wife accepted to be out behind your back?" she asked. "Yes." "And you let her have access to controlling shares?" I nodded. She didn't look impressed. "That was careless." "I know," I said. She tapped her pen against her notebook. "But here's what matters. You built something valuable once. You can do it again." I looked at her, unsure. She leaned forward. "You still have the brain. That's what matters." Something inside me shifted. I started hearing things from former employees. One of them called me late at night. "They're stripping it," he said angrily. "They're cutting features and firing people." I closed my eyes. I told her they would. He hesitated. "Some of us would follow you if you started again." Emily, meanwhile, filled social media with photos of vacations and expensive dinners. The payout had come fast. The spending came faster. I felt anger rise, but I forced it down. This could not be about revenge. Marcus came over with his laptop 2 nights later. "Just look at this," he said, opening a blank coding window. I stared at the screen. "You're serious?" "Completely." He pointed at me. "We designed it smarter. Leaner. No outside control." I hesitated. Fear gripped me tighter than poverty ever had. "What if we fail?" I asked quietly. He smiled slightly. "Then we fail on our own terms." I took a deep breath. My heart pounded, but not from pain this time. I opened my old notebook and flipped to a page filled with early sketches. "If we do this," I said slowly, "we build it stronger than before." I looked at the empty apartment around me. I had lost my company. I had lost my marriage, but I had not lost myself. "We're not rebuilding for revenge," I said firmly. "We're rebuilding because I'm not done." And for the first time since everything burned, I believed it. I started waking up at 5 every morning. Not because I wanted to, but because anxiety refused to let me sleep. Marcus would already be at my kitchen table when I walked out. "Coffee's strong," he'd say. "We're going to need it." I'd nod and open my laptop. "Let's rewrite the core engine." I told him one morning. "Cleaner architecture, no shortcuts." He smirked. "Everything we couldn't afford to do the first time." I leaned back. "This time we do it right." He studied me. "You sure this isn't about proving something?" I met his eyes. "It's about control." Lena came by twice a week. She never sugarcoated anything. "Your pitch deck is weak," she said during one session. "We don't even have a product yet," I replied. I clenched my jaw. "We're trying," she shook her head. "Trying is not execution." Marcus muttered, "She's brutal." I answered quietly, "She's right." Lena leaned forward. "If you want investors again, you show discipline." "I won't make the same mistake twice." She didn't ask what mistake. She already knew. Some nights the silence hit harder than the workload. I would stare at lines of code and hear Emily's voice in my head. "Be realistic." My phone lit up one evening. "You going to answer?" he asked. I declined the call. A message followed. "Can we talk?" I locked the phone. "Not now," I said. Marcus gave me a long look. "You okay?" I swallowed. "I will be." My chest felt tight, but I forced my attention back to the screen. Weeks turned into months. Progress was slow, but it was ours. "The algorithm's faster," Marcus said one night. "Not fast enough," I replied. He laughed. "You're impossible." I rubbed my eyes. Perfection isn't the goal. Stability is. Lena joined a video call the next day. "Show me," she demanded. I shared my screen. She watched silently as the new system processed data. After a minute, she nodded slightly. "Better," I exhaled. "That's it." She allowed herself a faint smile. "For now." Emily called again one afternoon. I stepped outside before answering. Hi, she said softly. What do you want? I asked. She hesitated. Just to check on you. I let out a cold laugh. I stared at the street below. We're not anything. Silence stretched between us. I miss how things were, she whispered. I closed my eyes. Things were built on trust, I said. You broke that. I ended the call before my voice could crack. The breakthrough came on a random Thursday at 2 in the morning. I adjusted one final parameter and hit run. Marcus leaned over my shoulder. Then the results appeared faster, smoother, stable. I blinked. Run it again, I said. He did. Same result. He looked at me slowly. Is this it? My heart pounded. I ran another test. Flawless. Marcus let out a shout. Months of doubt, fear, and exhaustion narrowed into this moment. I shared the results. She studied them carefully. Then she said, now you have something real. I felt something settle inside me. Not revenge. Not anger. Strength. I looked at Marcus and smiled for the first time in a long while. The first rumor reached me through an old teammate named Daniel. He called late at night. You heard what they're doing over there? He asked. I leaned back in my chair. I stopped checking. He let out a dry laugh. They cut half the engineering team. My jaw tightened. That was the core. Exactly, he replied. They're not improving it. They're stripping it. I closed my laptop slowly. And Emily? I asked before I could stop myself. Daniel hesitated. She did not seem worried. That stung more than I expected. A few days later, Marcus walked into my apartment holding his phone. Check this out, he said. He showed me photos from a mutual friend's party. Emily stood in the center, smiling, holding a glass of champagne. New car too, Marcus added. I looked away. Good for her. He studied me carefully. You don't mean that. My chest felt tight, but I refused to let it turn into bitterness. Focus, I told myself quietly. We build forward. Daniel came to meet me in person the next week. He sat across from me at the small cafe near my apartment. I didn't want to say this on the phone, he began. I felt my stomach drop. Just say it. He rubbed his palms together. When the buyout happened, I overheard something. I leaned forward. What? He swallowed. She knew they planned to dismantle it. My mind went blank. No, I whispered. He nodded slowly. She said, as long as the money clears, it's their problem. The words hit harder than the contract ever did. I stared at the table for a long time. Are you sure? I finally asked. I wouldn't lie about this, Daniel said. Some of us stayed quiet because we needed jobs. I felt anger rise, sharp and hot. She knew, I repeated under my breath. Marcus joined us halfway through the conversation. When Daniel left, Marcus asked, what happened? I told him. His face darkened. That changes things. I clenched my fists. It shouldn't. It does, he insisted. Now you know it wasn't ignorance. It was choice. Former employees began reaching out one by one. If you're starting again, I want in, one said over the phone. Another texted, I trust you, not them. Each message felt like a small piece of something rebuilding inside me. We couldn't hire everyone, but we brought back a few loyal engineers. During our first small team meeting, I said, this time we protect what we build. One of them nodded. We follow your lead. The responsibility felt heavier than before, but also clearer. That night, alone in my apartment, I replayed Daniel's words. As long as the money clears. I felt hurt, but underneath it was something else. Drive. Is this revenge? I asked myself out loud. The silence didn't answer. I thought about Emily's smile in those photos. I thought about the employees who lost their jobs. I looked at the new code on my screen. No, I said finally. This is about proving I was right to believe in the long road. But deep down, I knew the betrayal had cut deeper than I had admitted. 3 months after our prototype stabilized, traction finally came. Users signed up quietly at first, then faster each week. Marcus burst into my apartment one morning holding his tablet. We crossed 10,000 active users, he said, breathless. I took the tablet and stared at the graph. No paid ads? I asked. All organic, he replied. I felt something solid settle in my chest. They're choosing us, I said. Marcus grinned. Because we built it better. For the first time in a long while, growth felt clean. Lena called that afternoon. I've reviewed your metrics, she said. Impressive. I leaned back in my chair. That almost sounded like praise. She ignored the comment. You're ready to raise a serious round. My pulse quickened. Already? Strike while momentum is real, she replied. I nodded slowly. On our terms? She paused. Always on your terms this time. I appreciated that she didn't need to explain what she meant. Control was no longer negotiable. 2 days later, Marcus walked into my office space with a tight expression. You're not going to like this, he said. I looked up. Try me. He placed a business card on my desk. The competitor's logo stared back at me. My jaw tightened instantly. They want a meeting. I let out a slow breath. For what? He gave me a dry look. Another payout. I laughed once, short and cold. Of course they do. I agreed to the meeting. Not because I needed it, but because I wanted to look them in the eye. The conference room felt sterile. The same executive who pushed the first offer sat across from me. He smiled politely. Good to see you again. I didn't smile back. You dismantled my company, I said evenly. He adjusted his tie. We optimized assets. You gutted it, I corrected. Get to the point. He slid a folder toward me. We're prepared to offer a significantly larger figure this time. I didn't touch it. Why? I asked. He answered calmly, because you've proven market demand. I almost admired the honesty. So now you want to own it before it grows further. He nodded slightly. We believe integration would be beneficial. I held his gaze. Beneficial for who? He didn't respond immediately. Marcus shifted beside me but stayed silent. I finally opened the folder. The number was larger than before. Much larger. For a brief second, I imagined the relief of cashing out. No risk, no stress. Then I remembered the contract on my dining table months ago. I closed the folder gently. You had your chance, I said. The executive straightened. I advise you to think carefully. I stood up. I have. He tried one last time. This offer won't last forever. I met his eyes steadily. Neither will your leverage. Silence filled the room. I pushed the folder back across the table. We're not for sale. My voice didn't shake as Marcus and I walked out. He let out a low whistle. That felt good, he said. I nodded slowly. It felt different from anger. It felt controlled, measured, earned. I wasn't desperate anymore. I wasn't trying to prove anything to Emily or to them. I was protecting what we had built. For the first time, I understood the shift clearly. They were chasing. I was choosing. Emily called me on a Sunday evening. I almost ignored it, but something in me wanted to hear her voice. Hello, I said flatly. She didn't waste time. Can we talk? I leaned back in my chair. We are talking. She exhaled shakily. I mean really talk. I stayed quiet. After a moment, she said, Things aren't going the way I thought. I felt a small twist in my chest. I asked. It means the money isn't endless, she replied. I made some investments. They didn't work. I closed my eyes briefly. You invested? She sounded defensive. I was trying to grow it. I let out a slow breath. As long as the money clears. I kept my tone steady. I warned you the deal wasn't solid, she lowered her voice. I thought success was fast. I felt something shift inside me. Success isn't fast, I said quietly. It's built. She sniffed softly. You always talk like that. Like everything is a lesson, I replied. Because it is. I didn't want to keep struggling. I leaned forward. We weren't struggling. We were building. She didn't answer that. I miss us, she said suddenly. The words caught me off guard. Us? I repeated. Yes. Before all of this, I felt old memories rising late nights. That version of us trusted each other. You made a decision, I corrected. There's a difference, she sounded hurt. So that's it? You just move on? I paused. I moved forward. Her voice cracked slightly. I thought money would fix everything. I spoke calmly. Then she asked softly, if I hadn't signed that contract, would we still be together? The question hit deep. I didn't think you'd leave. I replied, I didn't think you'd choose money over me. My words felt heavy but necessary. She tried one last time. We could start over. I closed my eyes and pictured the nights I couldn't sleep, the panic, the humiliation. But I didn't sell us to feel safe. Another long silence filled the line. Finally, she said, I don't know what to do now. I looked around my small office, at the whiteboard covered in plans and projections. Learn, I replied. Build something real. She didn't respond. I could hear her breathing, uneven and uncertain. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed firm. Success is built, not bought. I ended the call slowly. My hand trembled for a second, but I steadied it. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. And that felt stronger than anything she could say. The legal notice arrived on a Tuesday morning. I read the first paragraph twice before it made sense. We rewrote everything. I ran a hand through my hair. They don't need truth. They need pressure. I forced a breath. I'm not spiraling, I'm calculating. Lena came within the hour. She scanned the document without changing expression. It's a tactic, I asked. Can they win? She looked up. Not if your documentation is clean. Marcus answered immediately. It is. I hesitated for a split second. Lena noticed. Is there anything unclear? She pressed. I shook my head. No copied code, no reused assets. We started from zero. She nodded. Then we fight. The word fight echoed in my mind longer than I expected. The stress hit harder at night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling. What if they dragged this out for years? I asked Marcus during a late call. Then we outlast them, he said firmly. You always say that like it's simple, I muttered. He replied, it's not simple, it's necessary. The next morning, Lena called again. I'm committing funds for legal defense, she said. I blinked. That's a big risk. She answered calmly, I invest in founders, not fear. Her confidence steadied me. The mediation meeting felt colder than the be-out discussion months ago. Their lead attorney leaned back in his chair. Your product mirrors proprietary architecture, he said. He slid a stack of printed comparisons across the table. I pushed them back. That's generic framework logic. Marcus added, we redesigned the core engine. The attorney smirked. Reasonable doesn't mean factual. He pressed harder. I answered without hesitation. No, my heartbeat pounded, but my voice stayed level. We documented every stage of development. Marcus opened his laptop and projected timestamps, drafts, and version histories. The attorney flipped through the files slower now. You're confident, he observed. I replied, because we built it clean. He glanced at the executive beside him. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker in their expressions. Lena spoke calmly. If you pursue litigation without merit, we will counterclaim for damages. Silence settled heavily across the table. After an hour of tense back and forth, their attorney closed his folder. My hands were steady now. As we stepped outside, Marcus exhaled sharply. That was intense, I nodded, but necessary. Lena looked at me carefully. You handled that well. Not anger, control. 2 days later, we received formal notice. The claim was dismissed. I read the email twice to be sure. Marcus clapped me on the back. Told you. Lena allowed herself a rare smile. Months ago, something like this would have broken me.